Welcome to the Youngpreneur podcast, a show for young and aspiring entrepreneurs who want to start or scale their own business. Our podcast is dedicated to helping young people find a community and resources to start and grow their businesses. Hosted by Charlotte Enever and Linda Reed Enever, our passion is seeing the future of business grow.
Welcome to the Youngpreneur Society podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Enever, and joining me today is Bradford Stucki. Bradford, would you like to give us an introduction to yourself?
Sure. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I completed my doctoral degree in 2022 from Virginia Tech University in Virginia in the United States. And I currently have a private practice where I work with people across the United States in Texas, Virginia, and Utah on a variety of issues, but primarily trauma, anxiety, and relationship issues.
How did you decide on your career path and to open a practice?
It was definitely a process. In pursuing therapy, there's a number of different steps you have to go through. There's the graduate degree, and then there's getting licensed. And as I was working towards licensure, I was working in an environment that didn't have very many boundaries about who I should see, who I didn't want to see. It was just open the floodgates and you can see whoever you want. And I started to realize that there were some populations or problems that I was really good at working with and some that I shied away from but still had to work with. And I saw that opening my own private practice would be a great way to not only be in charge, but tailor my interests according to my skills. I continued with my licensure and eventually I started looking at the different steps and started hacking through the weeds per se and starting the business that way.
Is there anything that made you decide or inspire you to start working with families?
When I was in my master's program, I worked with a variety of different groups of people, couples, individuals, adolescents, kids, and families. And when I started working with families, I found it to be really intriguing, but also really complex. And I started to take a liking to working with families like in person because I could do more experiential and activity-based therapy rather than just talk therapy. And I found that through engaging the family as a unit, it happened more quickly rather than just talking about the problem.
That's really interesting. What do you think is the best outcome available to a family or even a person?
I think there are a lot of outcomes, but one that I tend to gravitate towards is having a peaceful relationship with yourself. And I say that because when we have problems, we can only control those problems. And when other people have those problems, we can only control our reactions to those people. And by having a peaceful relationship with ourselves, we're able to navigate different situations without taking into consideration, will they judge me? What are they thinking about me? And all these different kind of miscellaneous factors that don't really matter as much as what are you doing that matters to you? Are you living according to your values? If not, what needs to change? Being the master of your own fate, your own ship per se, rather than being tossed around.
Yeah, that is really important. What can a person or family do to give them the best chance of achieving that peaceful relationship with their self?
It's a good question. I think one thing is to be curious and reflective. Why did I act that way in that situation? What was going on for me? Was it a specific tone or comment or critique or compliment? So developing self-awareness is really helpful. I think also being aware that there are multiple avenues to get help. Therapy is a great one. I'm biased though. There's self-help books, there's podcasts, there's a lot of free resources available. So for people who aren't ready to make the jump into therapy, there's lots of different avenues that they can try and work on as they lean into that.
Wonderful. Based on my experience, there's a lot of questions for young people around what they want to do when they grow up and what they want to be. What can make it easier for a young person to find their way in life?
I think exposing yourself to as many different career options as possible, and not just through book learning. I think talking with people who are already doing the job And like getting a tour of their office, spending an hour with them, seeing what it's like on a day-to-day basis can really give you a felt sense of what that career is like rather than learning about from Wikipedia or a textbook or a parent. Again, this experiential piece of experiencing the career versus reading or learning about it. And that's something I did as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to become. I looked at city planning, I looked at architecture, I looked at a whole bunch of different things. And it was interesting because as I did these immersive experiences, I got a nuanced feel of, oh, I don't like that part of the job, but I do this part. And I was better able to weigh the pros and cons that come from more of an interactive experience than a contextual or written one.
Through owning a private practice, in the same way that owning any business, I feel like you would get more control over how things run and a personalized experience for you that works for you. Is there any way that you were able to choose, really see how you liked certain things to be done, and how did you implement that?
So prior to starting my private practice, I worked with a couple of group practices, which are basically a bunch of clinicians who work together under a boss, who already has an established thing going. And as I worked in those different environments, I started noticing things I liked and things I didn't like. And I would write them down in like an email draft. So I'd always have access to it. And it was easily accessible. And as I kind of meandered through those different experiences, I started to create an idea or a vision of what I wanted to create and how I wanted to create it. And unfortunately, in the beginning of my practice, I'm like, it's going to happen just this way. It's going to be perfect. And it didn't happen that way. And I had to learn really quickly that the ability to pivot and adjust to the different demands and expectations that come with owning a business are many. And there's often a steep learning curve, and you just have to be open to the different possibilities versus channeled in what you think will happen.
Yeah. How do you manage mishaps, such as things not going exactly the way you planned in your business?
First, I stress a lot about it, have a lot of anxiety, and then I'll go to my kind of support system and kind of vent and complain. And once the emotions have died down, then I'll start coming up with a plan. I'll reach out to other colleagues or professionals I know. I'll reach out to different people who seem to know more than I do and start developing a plan that way. And sometimes it's emailing a government organization and waiting weeks for a response. And other times it's paying one a little bit more extra money so you can have peace of mind rather than sitting in that uncertainty. And I'm of the mindset that if I don't know something, I'm going to find someone who does or somewhere that does. And that served me well through thick and thin. And, sometimes situations can't be resolved and they can't be pivoted around. And in those cases, it's like, well, you just accept the loss and move on. So I made like a tax error in filing my taxes, and I didn't know that it applied to me. And in that moment, I remember I'm like, that doesn't apply to me. I don't need to worry about that. And then 6 months later, I did need to worry about it. And it had a financial cost to it, but I'm certainly not going to make that mistake again. Sometimes you can pivot and connect with other people and find a way around it. Other times you just learn and move on. It is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes the loss of money is worth the lesson learned, because I know
Certainly.
Taxes are confusing for me and I have to learn them in school. What challenges in business have you overcome so far?
One is sitting with, this is more of an ongoing one. It's not an outcome yet. But one is like sitting with the discomfort of not knowing. As I mentioned earlier, there's a steep learning curve when starting a business. And my educational training taught me how to do therapy, but it didn't teach me how to do a business. So there was a lot of kind of bumbling around. I think I'll do this. Oh, that isn't working. I think I'll do this. So being open to making mistakes and accepting, I'm not good at enough at this yet because I'm still learning. And that power of the word yet is really helpful because it's like I'm working on it, but I haven't mastered it yet. Another thing is having loose expectations. So as I've started my business and continued it, I have different expectations on where I want the numbers and the outcomes to be. but there's only so much that I can do. And embracing the uncertainty is really helpful, particularly for people with anxiety like me. We want to control everything and know the end from the beginning and all these other things that don't work. But having an open mind and be like, yeah, some things will happen, some things will not, and I'll go with the flow has been helpful in navigating those things.
Yeah, I struggle a little bit with anxiety too. So I think it's also great to know that other people need to know everything before they go ahead and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is amazing for this whole podcast because I think a lot
Oh,
of it is
totally.
knowing everything before you start.
Oh,
It was,
yeah. And the idea of starting a business seems more daunting than actually doing it. Like, realistically, it's like filling out some forms with the government saying, this is the name of my business, and hooray. The government's like, great, give us $300 and go on your way. So you do, and then that's that. There are things you're just going to come across that you don't know. Like last summer, I didn't know a thing about marketing. I'm like, I got to figure out this marketing thing so I can stay in business. And over a period of 2 to 3 months, I spent probably 10 to 20 hours extra every week just learning the ins and outs and the lingo. And I didn't get a marketing degree, but the internet's a magical place. It has lots of knowledge out there and people, and joined some Facebook groups and about like search engine optimization and how to navigate certain things and ask my questions. And surprisingly, they didn't call me out for being an imposter of not being like them, but rather it was like, yeah, this is what you do and this is how you do it. So it's very much a trial and error process. If you're thinking it's going to be perfect from the beginning, you're probably not going to last very long in the business realm.
yeah, I know when I
If you
started,
do,
I thought there was
congrats.
so
But
much to do. Oh my God, yeah, I've seen people that just go ahead and do it and they have this whole plan and vision boards and they've already got budget plans before they even started and it just all goes perfectly. And I'm like, okay, I had that too. Yeah,
didn't quite work out like yours, but hey, power
good for
to you.
you, but seriously, should have got that. Yeah, I think it is really important to keep that open mind. And there's always so much, it looks like there's so much to do in business, but it really is just sign up for a few things, learn a few terms, and as long as you're telling the people what you do and they're coming to you, then it works.
There's a guy I used to follow, and one of his kind of signature phrases is building a business is like building a plane as you're trying to fly it. And you don't really know what's happening, but it's working and you just keep on with it. And it's just, you don't really know what you're doing, but you figure it out.
Yeah, and I feel like the business landscape is always changing, especially with AI now.
Oh, totally. Yeah, lots of inconvenient things and new developments. But again, with business, it's either this is a risk or this is an opportunity. And I think the mindset you bring into it as well can really determine your reaction to it.
Yeah, open minds are very important. So, on that note, what are some lessons that you have learned about business or yourself through your journey as a youngpreneur?
One thing is I don't know everything, and I'm learning to become more okay with that. Another thing is things don't always happen the way I think they will. There's people I talk to, there's different opportunities that come around, there's God being in the details that helps in that area. And I can build the best plan I can and then go with it and being flexible. I think flexibility is probably one of the more powerful takeaways of being a youngpreneur. I think too, like building a support network. Having a business can be really isolating and lonely. You are wearing 20 different hats and just trying to figure out different things. And I think unless you're connected with people who really understand what you're doing, it can feel like invalidating or dismissive when people are like, oh, you got this, you can figure it out. If you only knew how much time and effort it took to get to this point. And while that's great that they're supportive and things, I think just surrounding yourself with positive support people can be really helpful. Not just from a, yeah, hoorah, I can do this, but also from a mindset thing of it is possible. You can accomplish your goals. You can get to places. You can realize these things versus a naysayer support network that
Yeah,
tells
I
you all the
know.
problems with the industry.
Yeah, and I know from because I'm still learning how to be a good friend to a lot of people. is if you are just going out and saying, oh, you can do it without actually understanding what they're doing, or at least expressing some kind of interest in what they're doing, then you're not exactly going to be the most helpful. Like, you're coming from the right place, but if you don't understand what they're talking about, then it might be time to step back.
Absolutely. It's hollow. It's like talking to a kiddo and being like, good job on that color drawing you did. The kid thanks. Versus the feedback of, wow, you spent so much time, worked really hard to stay in between the lines and picked all these with specificity in your feedback comes more appreciation. And it also feels more genuine. And without that connection and curiosity into what the person's actually doing, the words can come across as hollow and maybe even dismissive.
Yeah, definitely. How did you decide on like the pricing for your sessions? Because I know that's been a hard thing for me to figure out.
On the what, sorry?
So how did you come to a conclusion on what prices you were going to be like offering for your sessions? Yeah. Like how much you were charging. There we go.
Yeah. There are a couple different things I used. When I started my business, there was an excellent resource online. I tried looking for it the other day and I couldn't find it, but it was like a calculator where you create your dream life, your dream business, and you put in the different numbers, how many weeks of vacation you want, if you want like a retreat in the middle of the year, you want to take a month off, whatever. And as you plug in the different numbers that you want to do, then this calculator calculates how much per hour you need to be making to hit that goal. And then there were expenses and different things. I thought that was a brilliant invention. And if you're able to find it, it was on this website called heytiffany.com, but it may have changed since then. Other things that I did were looking at my competitors. Who else has a doctoral degree? Who else is a licensed marriage and family therapist? Who else has this number of years of experience? Who else specializes in these issues? And gauging where other people were at and then setting my fee similar to that, but a little bit higher. And I was talking to my mother the one day, I'm like, I'm thinking about raising my rates. I don't know about it. I don't know if anyone will go for it. And she's like, you're the boss. So if no one goes for it after a month and a half or a month, just bring it back down. I was like, amazing. Yes, of course. And I tried it and people started biting and okay, I will go forward with that rate. And I think there's that piece too, is that often as youngpreneurs, we can overthink things and think that there's this complicated formula to get to where we want to go or be. And sometimes it's a simple thing of just move your rate back.
Yeah. And I think especially with my favorite saying is dress for the job you want, not the job you have, because it's not just about how you look. It's about when you do raise your prices, you do get those. I know for a lot of people with like marketing, because that's what my parents do, is you will get those higher profile clients that can spend that kind of money because you are worth that kind of money. Yeah, that's how I like to see that saying. And yeah, when you do raise your prices, the right people will come.
It's like that Disney movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. But
Yeah.
You're right, with a certain fee, attracts certain types of people, with certain insurances, attracts certain types of people. And I was talking to a colleague the other day and she was telling me how high her rate was. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And she's like, but people value my skills and they value my abilities and I'm confident in the services that I provide. I was like, yeah, go girl. And it was just this really refreshing view of abundance mindset of there's plenty of people out there. You just have to come up with the right message and rate to attract those people.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that your friend is that confident in herself. That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah. So what is the most surprising thing you have experienced in your profession?
One of the things that I think is surprising is that as therapists, we talk about relationships and working on things and becoming better, progressed, and more improved people. And something that has surprised me and continues to surprise me is the lack of community among clinicians, at least in the area where I am. And I believe a lot of this is due to the scarcity mindset of, oh my goodness, if I connect with this person, they're going to steal my business ideas and my clients and I'm going to go out of business. Or this idea of, I'm too busy for you, I don't have time for this. I'm sure there's other reasons. But with those things, I feel like it's very limiting and it can be difficult to build a community when you are having an anxiety moment or are stressed about different challenges. And then to be alone is antithetical to the profession. That's one thing that continues to surprise me and I hope will change over time as mindsets shift.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I do hope they shift because I feel like when you do need to vent about something or you do need advice, you need the people that already know what they're doing.
Can't talk to the person on the bus. This thing happened. They're like, okay, weirdo.
I don't know what you're going on about, but good for you. If not, bad for you.
Good luck, I think.
Is there any other advice that you have for our listeners about starting a business?
Yes, there will be doubts. There will be hard days. But the most important thing is just to do it. I had a childhood friend who loved doing crazy things like jumping off cliffs into water. And I thought it was stupid, but he had fun. And I asked him one day, I'm like, why do you do that? And he's because fear is fun. And it's something that's always stuck with me. And I've noticed over time as I've gone throughout my education, my career, that fear can be really limiting. And fear is also an illusion. And as we lean into it and just say, yeah, that may happen. This business may fail. I may not make the money I'm looking for. I may spend a lot of time and nothing may come from it. But the act of doing can dispel the fear. And I think that's one of the things that kind of prevented me from starting my business sooner rather than later was this idea of fear of what if it fails? What if I can't make it work? What if, and as a result, I stayed stagnant for a little bit until I did something and then was like, oh, now I have to do this and then this. So fear is the one thing. And another is there's always an answer out there. Like you may think you're a special snowflake, and maybe you are, but it seems more likely than not that someone else has asked the same question you're asking. Maybe with different words, maybe in a different language, but the question's already been asked. And the challenge may be in finding that answer. How do I fill out this form? Who do I talk to about tax problems? Who do I connect with? How do I do marketing? Whatever. And if you have the kind of the persistence, you can find the answer. Don't give up. It's out there. You just have to find it.
Yeah, I feel like we've existed for so long. It's pretty hard to ask an original question.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be somewhere.
Well, in my doctorate program, there's a prolific writer and researcher, and it was probably the first week. And she stood up in front of us and she's, class, there are no new ideas. I was shocked. I'm like, no, I want to come up with a new idea. But as I went on through my program, I realized kind of the nuance of what she was saying of like, it's usually the same idea packaged differently and asked differently. And it's true, there's plenty of ideas that are recycled and recreated.
Yeah, I saw an ad for a digital camera today and it had some kind of filters or something on it. And they were saying that it was a brand new, nobody's ever thought of it like this before. And I was like, that's just a classic digital camera.
It's like a Kodiak.
Okay. Yeah. It looks amazing, but I'm pretty sure that's just the OG.
Go marketing team.
Yeah, they did a great job. I was pretty convinced, actually.
Well, it's with the iPhone. Like back when they had the iPhone X, they're like, this is going to be the end of the iPhones. I believed them. I'm like, all right, this is the end. 10, that's it. Then when they came out with the 11, I talked to my brother. I'm like, wait, they told us that was the it. Why are they bringing out an 11? He's marketing. Get it before it's gone.
It's definitely a shock factor. This was meant to be the end, but we have something so much better. We didn't know it was going to happen.
No button this time.
Yeah, the way phones are going is so confusing. I just want that little headphone jack back again.
That'd be so nice.
Yeah. I just want to be able to charge my phone while I listen to music. And I get that I have wireless headphones, but it's still not the same.
It's not. You lose a headphone and it's just a mess.
Yeah, and it's so hard. Like when they were together, all you had to do was like cut them up and then you'd lose them.
I left my headphones out the other day. One of my dogs ate one of my headphones. I'm like, this would not have happened if I had corded headphones.
Yeah.
But live and learn, I suppose.
I feel like there's some kind of nostalgia because I used to always wear wired headphones when I go on the train because I didn't catch the bus to school. We'd go on the train a lot and I'd be wearing my little headphones, and every time there's an old phone and it happens to be working and I can use a headphone jack to listen to music, I get so happy.
Nostalgia.
Yeah. And it's important because it's just the functionality of being able to do two things at once. Humans can't do it. Technology can.
Need someone to come through and recycle the idea of headphone ports again.
Yes. I feel like if we wait an extra 2 years, I'll probably do that. It'll just look a little different. I'll come back in 2 years' time. I'll listen to this again. I'll see if we got it right.
We'll have a square one instead of a circle.
Yeah.
Be a new idea.
Totally different. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and there really was like so much that you clearly know from experience.
Bumble around enough, you learn some lessons along the way.
Yeah, and I think it's really important because you've at least helped somebody, because you've helped me. I've learned quite a bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for the opportunity, and I'll talk to you when I talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Take care.
I would like to thank Bradford Stucki for joining me today on this episode of the Youngpreneur Society podcast. I'm sure our listeners have taken away lots of insights and lessons from you. I would also like to thank our listeners for supporting this podcast. You can learn more about Bradford and his business at bridgehopefamilytherapy.com.
Thank you for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. Like this episode? Remember to subscribe and leave us a review. And join us in the Youngpreneur Society, a community for young entrepreneurs to explore the world of business. youngpreneursociety.com